Born in the backwoods.
Born in the backwoods.
Raised by a bear.
Raised by a bear.
Got cast iron nuts.
Got cast iron nuts.
And 2 coats of hair.
And 2 coats of hair.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Yeah, it's a mean, mean prick.
Yeah, it's mean prick.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
Who don't take no shit.
I don't take no shit.
Hey. Perfect. How's it going, man? Welcome to the ODT Veteran Podcast. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, thanks. It's good to be here. My name is Gray Harrison, and I am a retired high school teacher from Massachusetts, living in Colorado for the last 10 years. And I spend a lot of time trying to just connect and build community. And specifically, one of the things I do is I have always been a mechanic. I was a mechanic in the Army and turned it into mechanicking on bicycles. And so I volunteer for Homeward Alliance, an organization in Fort Collins that tries to take care of people who don't have a place to live and also to prevent people who are at risk of becoming homeless from being, falling over that edge. And we, the Homeward Alliance organization does a lot of different things for homeless people and homeless veterans especially. And we have a crew that fixes bikes for those folks for free and also donates bikes to people who need them.
I've seen that all over Fort Collins. Like there's some dude with like 20 mountain bikes in front of his vehicle or whatever, and he's like fixing them up and people bring them over. And I not that that's what you guys are doing. It sounds like you guys have an actual like setup, but I was on some job up in Fort Collins where like that's all I saw all day was this guy just fixing bikes for anyone and everyone that that would come help him. That's awesome. I love that. I heard about you from one of the people I met at the Heart J Center. She gives classes about nature and Native Americans, history, stuff like that. She tells stories. Can you say a little bit about her and
Lisa
and how you guys met? Yeah,
sure.
Or BB, is that? I think that was one of the nicknames she said she had or something.
If that's the nickname, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So when we moved to Colorado, my daughter was here, my sisters were here, my parents were here, but my parents were very elderly and required a lot of care, and they have since passed.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's
right.
When you're 90 something.
I mean, that's a good run.
Yeah, that's a good run.
97 years old. This is a really good run.
Yeah. It's it gets to the point where it's time to go. And
right.
That's all right.
Right.
Anyways, so we didn't really know anybody, and it was kind of hard to break into what was going on around here. Luckily, I got into, I was heavily involved in bike culture in Worcester, Massachusetts, where we spent most of our adult lives. So I got into that, and then wait, now I've lost track of the question.
Did you ever do that bike messenger stuff or
no? Oh,
no.
I know. Oh, how do I know Lisa? Yeah.
Yes.
So
sorry.
So my wife is a very spiritual person, and she joined a drumming group, a full moon drumming group, and a lot of those people were into Native American culture, including Lisa, and so that's how I got to know her, and we did some activities together to raise money for various Native American activities, projects,
right.
concerts, etc. And we traveled to South Dakota a couple times there was, for 4 years, there was a concert, a big concert, a weekend-long concert at a beautiful campground in South Dakota to raise money and to get people together. And with the the intention behind it was a lot of what we saw at Standing Rock, which was this is the time where all of the tribes come together. And one of the things that I learned and really hit me emotionally was that we are all from tribal groups of some sort, even if somebody like me lost their tribe 2,000 years ago,
Right.
And have been adrift from it ever since.
I think that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know it, and it's sad because, but
I'm always envious of Native Americans in the sense of, the family togetherness, not tribe mentality, but like that. I know these are my people kind of thing.
Right.
Like that feeling. My grandma, she was Native American and Cherokee. Just like I'm pretty sure like everybody's heard everyone on the East Coast. Oh yeah, no, I'm like 50% Cherokee or I'm
Right.
what. She had gotten adopted out of, I want to say it from what she told us. She also passed. But she told us she was Cherokee Native American and had gotten adopted outside of the reservation that her family was at. And they don't have any, this was like way back in the day, like 50s or 60s. And like they didn't keep track of any of that stuff. And like all the older generation, they're all about like, oh, we don't talk about that, or like family secrets aren't what they used to be compared to now. Like you would grow up till you're like 60 and then you find out your dad's not really, you know what I mean? Like
sure,
some off the wall stuff. But she was that was the only kind of connection I ever had to Native American anything. So when I'm younger, I'm thinking, man, that'd be so cool if I could like consider myself a part of whatever group or tribe. And it just sucks not really having something like that other than like Irish or you know what I mean?
right?
So,
Yeah, I'm Irish, English, and Polish. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's I'm always envious of that, and I've always wanted to kind of find something like that, and I found that with the military.
right. I did as well. Yeah,
We
are veterans. That's a tribe.
Right.
Yeah.
You said you were a mechanic. Were you a diesel mechanic?
No, I was a helicopter mechanic.
I was so close to picking that MOS. I ended up picking diesel mechanic.
Okay.
So when you said that, I was like, oh, sweet.
Uh-huh.
It's did you ever do anything with helicopters after you got out?
No, I was tempted to. One of the reasons that my wife and I moved from after I got out of the Army, went to school for a little while on the GI Bill, which was
Nice.
very nice.
Have you used it all?
Yes, I used it all. Yeah.
Don't forget you have Volk Rehab. You can use that as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm 70 years old now, so
Yeah.
I'm doing
Right.
my own thing, doing projects, fixing bikes. I've got a pretty full life.
Nice.
I do a lot of music too.
Nice.
But yeah, we were living in New York City. New York City was pretty toxic in the late 70s. So we wanted to find a place that was peaceful and warm. And we took a long road trip and ended up in Corpus Christi, Texas,
Oh man.
and decided to move there. The living was cheap and easy. And also that's where one of the big facilities where they rebuild parts for helicopters is at the Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi. And so there was a potential job there, but the more I looked into it, the more I didn't want to do it because
Right.
when I was working on helicopters, I got to do something different almost every single day. And
This was going to be like assembly line.
Yes,
kind of
it was
thing.
exactly like you'd see the same part every day. Take it apart, put it back together with new parts, and it just sounded really boring. So I didn't do it. And then I had a friend who tried to convince me to get my aircraft and powertrain license, the A&P license, to work on aircraft. But one of the things I'd gotten burned out on working on helicopters in Germany was I was done with working outside in the cold and the wet and the rain and the snow. And
Right.
so I was like, I don't think I really want to do that. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
You kind of like learn all that. How old were you when you joined?
19.
Yeah. You learn all those things in the time that you're in the military of like, I know what sucks. Like, I don't want to do this when I don't have to do this.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh man, I learned that lesson a lot in the military. So like, I wouldn't say I'm picky now, but I definitely know what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So
for
like
sure.
that's definitely a benefit from my time in the military. But
Good
so
point.
so what'd you guys do after, or what brought, just so everybody has context, the main goal of this is to kind of go over everything that happened out at the Dakota Access Pipeline protests and talk about your perspective being a part of that as a veteran, because my viewers know that I was a part of it on the side of working with the news agencies that were out there. But I also, being a veteran, was very curious as to what it was for the veterans that were showing up there to help with the prayers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought you guys out there, and what really caught your attention?
Well, I've always been sort of an advocate for the underdog, and
Right.
I've also I've paid close attention most of my life to politics and the injustices in the world, and the discrimination and prejudice that pervades so much of life on planet Earth.
Oh yeah.
And
Throughout history.
yeah, throughout history. And I want to do what I can to help people who need help. And so, my wife was into this drumming group, and we were learning about Native American connections out here, which back in Massachusetts, they're not, unfortunately, most Native Americans in that area were massacred, 400 years ago. So not a lot of not a lot
left out there.
Yeah, not a lot left.
No.
So we didn't really know about it. But out here, it seems very close and very real. And, the people are still here, and their history and their families have been through a lot in the last 150 years. That's, it's still fresh, really.
Oh yeah.
So we in the summer of 2016, when Standing Rock was really blowing up in the news, and the purpose and the work that they were fighting for to prevent this injustice from happening was really appealing to me, and I wanted to go to Standing Rock to help out in any way I could. And we went to a concert in summer of 2016 in South Dakota, a Native American-led concert.
Was it like a powwow, or was it its own concert?
Yeah, it was.
kind of thing?
It was its own thing. They did it 4 years. How they have patterns of 4 as part of their spiritual beliefs, and this was the 3rd year of that concert, and a lot of really great musicians were there, and a lot of Native American information and education and
Oh, that's
workshops
cool. During the concert,
right
like there.
yes
Oh, okay. Nice.
So really got to learn a lot about what's happening in the Native American community, and with the in that area in particular, the Lakota and the Sioux. Anyways, at that 3rd concert that summer, it was not very well attended because so many people were at Standing Rock. And so I was very curious. I wanted to go there. I had a lot of friends who were going there and helping out. And then when I heard about this veteran standout happening in December of 2016, I said, all right, this is
Right.
my time. I'm going to go and join the other veterans and
That's cool.
do, the idea was to protect the Native Americans, to be a sort of a phalanx of people who hopefully the police and the government would not go after so viciously.
Right. It's going to look even worse on TV
Yeah.
if they do.
Right,
So it's like,
exactly. And, there was, I think they expected 2,000 or so veterans, but double that showed up. And
oh, yeah.
yeah, it was an amazing experience for sure. And I'm really, really glad to have been a part of it. And we'll talk about it more, whatever your questions are. But at the end, when the Department of the Interior announced, hey, guess what? We're denying this easement across the reservation. The Dakota Access Pipeline is going to have to find another way. It was just such a feeling of celebration and like, wow, people got together, people raised this issue, and the government has finally listened.
Right.
Unfortunately, a couple weeks later,
Right.
somebody else took office,
Yep.
and
I was there
everything-
right when that happened,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and everything got thrown out the window again.
It was nuts. It was crazy because everybody was locking hands around the whole camp, and that's what we were trying to get shots of. And as they were doing that, people started talking about Donald Trump winning and what he's saying he'll do and this, that, and the other. And like, you just see the change in the atmosphere, and like, people were lashing out at anybody that didn't come off as on their team or like a part of their group kind of thing. So like, if you look like you were with the news or anything like that, it was like, screw you. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, it was not happiness and go lucky everywhere.
No.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. It was a tragedy, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things that really bothered me a lot was that Obama had more or less promised that he was going to stop this, and he just let it slide, and then Trump came in and
Yeah. I was surprised that, so I got there right after the big standoff with the water hoses and pepper spray and stuff like that in the water, where people are like halfway in the water, halfway out. I can't remember the name of that area, but it was right there nearby, and we got there immediately after that, and you could definitely see the morale was a lot higher prior to what you were just talking about with Trump taking office and saying, I'm going to implement this, that, or the other, and you could see the morale boosted after people started showing up. News agencies started showing up. It was nuts, and everybody was a lot more welcoming around that time, and the groups of people that were there and the foundations that were trying to help out and the businesses that were sending stuff, like, they had such an overflow of donations. It was amazing to watch. And then, like, towards the end, it's like, okay, stop the donations. Everybody's donating. Stop, because there's like piles of trash, like piles of donations that now look like trash because it got covered in snow or mud or whatever. So like, it was just a mixture of stuff, but it really varied. But in the beginning, the morale was like amazing, and like you just felt happier and more uplifted around that time.
There was a real purpose, and
Exactly.
and everybody was behind it, and there was a clear line in the dirt of South Dakota between good and evil, in my opinion.
And that's fair. The Army Corps of Engineers, that was such a what the hell to me, because of how much where we have been since like World War One with Native Americans joining the armed forces, and like all the way since then, they've been such an integral part of the U.S. military, Navajo code talkers, stuff like that. Like I want to say per capita, Native Americans join the military more than any other group.
I'm not surprised.
Per capita, just not, and I think that has to do with it being a smaller group in America, but it's like per capita, a large percentage of them are joining the military compared to a lot of people, and I think that has a lot to do with warrior mentality. You want to like be a part of something, and you want to have that honor that you can bring back to your family, and just, this is what I've done, and I did this for my country, even though all these horrible things had happened prior to Native Americans being a part of the military at all. Like you can't like comb over the history of America, and I mean, Trail of Tears, like the boarding schools that they would send children to that were just horrific. Anyone that's ever seen Yellowstone, or not Yellowstone, 1883, or the other one they did, it was like 19 something, but like they actually showed one of the schools, and when you look it up, it's like, kids would die there, and they would just bury them in the backyard in an unmarked grave. Yeah. And it's like, it's horrible when you hear all the stuff that was being done to people back then, and it's just like going from that to now serving your country, even though you might not feel like this is your country. It's crazy being able to go from that to, I'm going to be a part of something bigger than myself. And then even after you do that, now the Army Corps of Engineers is like, by the way, this is our property, we're going to build right through here, kind of thing. Yeah. So it sucked. And like, I'm a very, not analytical, but like, I'm a very to the point kind of guy. And if certain contracts or whatever say certain things, in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, this says that. But the nuance side of that is, okay, well, when was this signed? When was this put together? Was this put together like way back in the day, in the beginning of our country? And we're like, you guys go to this right here, you get a really nice reservation. We're going to keep these really nice hills over here that have all these minerals and stuff, but you guys can have this reservation over here. And then even then, you're like going to build a pipe right over their water source. Yeah. So it's weird to see that dynamic, and the coming from a military side of it, you're like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So I can totally see how you saw that opportunity to go help and kind of just like went for it, which I think is great.
Yeah, we made an oath to protect from enemies without and within. So
foreign and domestic. Yeah, I completely agree. What when did you end up getting out there? Was it right after the veterans started showing up?
Yes. Yeah. So I can't remember the exact dates, but we went up on the first day of when people were gathering. Yeah. And the first night there was a gathering at some kind of meeting hall on the reservation, and Tulsi Gabbard was there, and Wesley Clark Jr. was there, and he was one of the big organizers of this veteran standout. And
I didn't know Tulsi was there. That's cool.
Yes, she was. And so it was, a lot of energy, a lot of inspiration, a lot of like the tribe of veterans coming together to help to fight injustice and to protect people from an overreaching government and overreaching police force. And so it was very inspiring. It's very cold.
Yeah. God, man. Was this before the blizzard?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, my wife came with me. She wanted to be part of it. She's not a veteran, but and we at the time we had an old Sprinter van that was converted for camping, and so we were able to camp out the entire time, which was really an
How long
amazing
were y'all out
experience.
there?
I think we were there for 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
4 nights and 3 full days.
Did you guys get stuck at all? Because I know the hills that they had, like the entrance going in, it got real muddy after the snow. I wasn't sure if it had snowed yet while y'all were there, but
It did. We were there during the blizzard, yeah, and we were able to get. I think that, if I recall, there was sort of a day of preparation, and then there was the day of the big march to the bridge where all the veterans joined the Native Americans. And then the next day was the celebration and prayers and the drumming because of the easement had been denied, and people felt like they won. And then the blizzard comes in, and
people were scared. We honestly, the news agency I was with, MSNBC, they were pretty cool while we were out there, but they didn't show everything, which was a disappointment on my end. But they were genuinely scared that people were gonna die or something, because some of the people that came out to help, they're all good intentions, were showing up with like summertime tents.
right,
And
yeah.
it's like, no, what are you doing?
We were fortunate to have our van to protect us from the crazy wind and snow. And then that next day, the final day we were there, everybody evacuated to the hotel and casino area, where more get-togethers, talks, dancing, celebrations. Where I got that shirt came from that
Nice.
day, and later that afternoon, the snow had sort of slowed down, so we decided that was a good opportunity to hit the road and come back to Colorado, which was
That was smart. It got nuts out there after that, with people getting stuck, ice going up like if you were already parked up on the hill, there were so many wrecks, and like people accidentally T-bowing because they're stopping and then just sliding all the way down the hill. It was a genuine mess.
Yes.
Around that time.
Yeah.
Around the blizzard time.
Right.
Oh man, it was crazy. You when you went on that march, because I was out there when they were marching down to the bridge and kind of giving their prayers, waving flags, like the whole nine. It was beautiful, and I'll pop some pictures on there below that kind of show what was all going on around there. There was this one dude with this badass bear hide that he had like covering him and walking down. Like it was really beautiful to see that amount of people come together, veterans, Native Americans, and all for one kind of purpose.
Indeed.
Oh yeah. Was while you were, so just to give you context, while I was there, when we first showed up, it was right after, like I was saying, they had been spraying everybody with water, so like tensions were high. And kind of teetered off, and then towards the end, when they were telling them, hey, now everybody has to leave, all the snow's going to be melting, the water is going to, like, I want to say the area the camp was in was a marsh. When like after winter time or after the snow melts, it like fills up with water, and it's hard to get out of there. You can't get vehicles out. Like it just gets crazy muddy, and you could see that towards the end. But that last couple weeks that I was out there, it got nuts. They were bringing in sheriff departments, Homeland Security. I think I saw a Border Patrol agent, like just like whatever government entities in law enforcement that were anywhere nearby, they were sending them out to kind of just be there and be ready to push the people out. And I feel like about halfway through, starting in December-ish, maybe right after that, them spraying them with the water, I think it was a good group of people that were genuinely there to help, had a purpose, knew what they were wanting to do. And then like halfway through that, they started busting in. There was like a bus full of homeless people that they had just bust in that had no, like, they interviewed some of them, and they just, it was like they were repeating the exact same thing. And some of the people we had spoken to said that people were taking stuff without asking, like from other people's camps, and then saying oh, we thought it was a donation or stuff like that. And then like you could just feel that the people that were there in the beginning started like teetering out, and the people that were replacing them were more, we're here for a fight. Like there was a group of Antifa people that were pushing back with law enforcement in that last week. That like, I want to say this was a little bit, a year or two before like protests started getting crazy in America. So like this was the first time you really saw any of that. But like it went from happy-go-lucky, we have a purpose, to they didn't want you there at all. They didn't want news agencies. They didn't want news agencies there at all. They didn't want people filming anything. If you went in and filmed anything, they would like, they would grill the hell out of you. What do you have on there? We want to see what you filmed. We want to see this, that, and the other. And like we were getting stopped. It just got it was a completely different group of people that were like trying to take charge, like they had been there the whole time. And we're like, we had already spoken to this leader, and they gave us our class to tell us what we can and can't film. Like, so the producers were like jumping through hoops to make sure that they're not going to offend anybody. Two, they're going to get the protesters side of protesters and what's a better word? Activists. Thank you.
Water protectors.
Water protectors. There, and that's actually what got me. That's what really caught my eye, was the water protector jackets and hoodies and stuff. But what I was saying, it's like the group of people that were there first in the beginning just were nowhere to be found, and the people that replaced them were like not the group of people you want to associate yourself with. And you're like, what are we doing, guys? Like, we've completely lost the purpose of being here. It felt like it was full of just YouTubers and influencers. And there was one dude, I will never forget this. There was this ginger-haired white dude up at the entrance that had a security jacket on. And while we were there, I'm talking to him, and I think it was a buffalo or some large animal, a deer or whatever, up on the hill. And I go, oh man, that's so beautiful. The sun was rising behind it. Like, it was over the whole camp. It was gorgeous. And I tell him that, and he looks at me. This is like super white, super ginger-haired white dude. Yes, it's blessing the camp below. And started talking like that. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? What are you doing? And then one of the young ladies, one of the activists that was there, she came up, and she was Native American, and she came up, and he immediately changed his voice. And she's like, hey, Jeremy, can you help us out real quick? And he's like, yeah, sure, Jessica. And like walks with them down. But it was like, that was just to give context to the types of people I was meeting towards the end of it. Did you see any of that when you first showed up? And did you notice that the people that caught your attention when you first came were gone, or did you feel any of that at all while you were there?
I didn't. We were focused on being part of the Veterans Standout. Excuse me. And I had known a lot of people a lot of Native American or Native American supporter people who either had gone or were still at Standing Rock. And so I still had the feeling of people there with a purpose, all on the same page, and working together, helping each other. And that's what I saw when I was there. I saw a lot of people taking care of other people and making sure everybody was warm enough and had something to eat, and they've just the fire there, perpetual fire. I can't, they keep a fire going 24
yeah.
hours a day, and you got to have people
Are you
watch
talking
it.
about a metaphorical fire?
No,
or
no, the
actual
real
sacred
fire, the
that they
sacred
had?
fire. Yeah, the sacred
Gotcha.
fire. We hung out at the sacred fire, and people were very respectful. And
That was the best part of it, was
Uh-huh.
people like that feeling.
mhm.
And like we would interview individuals in the camp prior to everything like going a different way, and we were talking to people in the teepees or there's another word for it, not teepees, but like right before that, we interviewed the chief that was kind of running that town hall meeting or whatever,
Mhm,
where they had all
mhm.
gotten together, and he was talking about getting everyone together to do the locking hands around the camp and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And like I was saying before, right as they're all doing that, people are sledding, they're like sliding down the hill in the snow, like everyone's laughing and everything. And then it came down that Trump had popped back in, or that had gotten elected, and then made some comments about what he was going to do with the pipeline and stuff like that. And it just, you could feel everybody's vibe just went down. Everyone
Right.
was sad and
Yeah.
mourning, and it really did feel like people were mourning.
Yeah, it was a huge win, and then Trump came along.
Yeah, right. No, it definitely
Okay.
it took a big turn, and like that's what I think was not the breaking point, but the turn was like right after that happened. It like demoralized a lot of people.
Sure.
And they were like, what's the point of any of this? So then some of those people left, and then the people that were there for those people, then they left, and like it just, I feel like that last week was like the most demoralizing vibe you could feel.
Yeah.
They had lit some of the like they had built structures
Mhm.
in the camp,
Sure.
like full on plywood, 2x4s, the whole 9 yards. Like they had kitchens, they had tents for the donations, they had anything you can think of going on in there, and the donations made it a million times easier. I think I ended up getting like a gas mask. I got a gas mask out of there because they were just handing them out.
Right.
He's like, you
Yeah.
want one? And I'm like, I'm with the media. He's like, okay, here you go. You're a veteran though, right? And I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was happy. Nobody likes pepper spray. So
That's for sure.
I don't remember any of that happening while the veterans were there at all. I think there was some pushback, like physical pushback, but I don't remember seeing law enforcement come down that road past I think it was like a 2.5 or a 5-ton
Mhm.
that was on that bridge.
Mhm.
I think it was burnt, right?
I
remembering that right?
don't recall, but yeah, law enforcement definitely stayed back. They
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
They didn't want to interfere when the veterans were there. They knew. I think at that point they knew that the tide had turned, and that people from all over the U.S. were standing up for Standing Rock and saying, "No, this is wrong. You guys have forced this issue and tried to overrun some people who you didn't think could fight back, and they fought back, and other people joined them, and now you need to step back."
Like you were saying, it's super fresh, the history of America, and I think that's why you're seeing, like, people see a lot more things about race and stuff like that in America specifically, because America is not an old country. We're like 250 something years old as far as America, and like we were here in America didn't become America for a while, and a bunch of crazy stuff was happening prior to America being founded. So like you had hundreds of years of just pilgrimage and coming into this country, and before it was even a country, and kind of just that around that time it was take what you can and screw everybody else kind of feeling. And I don't think people realize how hard life was back in that time. Like, it's easy for everyone to kind of, sorry, go ahead.
I would argue that it's still take what you can and
Yeah.
screw everybody else.
No, that's fair.
Amongst some people.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I could definitely agree with that. There's but I mean, like I was saying, it's history. I think if people learn more about history, there's a lot of stuff they're not going to like to learn, but there's a lot of stuff that it's like, oh, okay, that gives me a little bit more perspective on what it was like back then.
Sure.
We can all, complain about what some guy did back in like the 1300s or even a closer time, like 1650 or something. Like, back then there wasn't air conditioning, there wasn't like any of the amenities that us as Americans in this country have, and like the fact that we're just here in America is a big deal. Like, we hit the lottery. There's a lot of horrible stuff that is happening today in the world. Like, there's still slavery in the world, all across the world. And whether it's, I don't know what I can say on YouTube, but like in not indentured servitude, but indentured servitude, and people coming into the country that are being taken advantage of by people that are just trying to make money, like the cartel. Like, they don't care. They're just, this is mine, go do whatever, here's what you want, but I'm going to take most of it kind of feeling and vibe. And it's gross. And I think if more people communicate and talk and have discussions, we can bring those different varying ideas and different perspectives together. And like they did at Standing Rock with veterans, Native Americans, and like, we all had a purpose to be there, which was, for me, was to work with the news agency. But for the veterans and the people that were there, was to protect the water.
Right.
And we could all agree on that, of like, yeah, you don't want oil in your water, whether it's like a little drop or a whole pipeline busting in the water. Like,
yeah, we
can all agree that's horrible. So I think that was like the great part about the protest, was just and activism was making it known to the world. And I think a lot more people are paying more attention to stuff like that, so that when they see it, it's more of, yeah, no, they're right, I'm going to go help, or I'm going to go, and communication now is like, you can text somebody across the world and talk to them right then and there. Yeah. So it's definitely different even now compared to like the 80s or 90s. Like, there's a lot more communication, and there's a lot more group mentality where we can come together and make a difference. Right. They didn't do anything when the veterans were there because they knew it would look bad. So, maybe this Standing Rock didn't go the way that we wanted. Next time this happens, now we know what to do. Now we know what groups to bring into the fold to make that difference right then and there, instead of have all this bad stuff happen in the moment and not complain about it later, but like point it out later. It's like, this is what's happening now. They're not going to do it, because if they do, we're going to be like, look at what they did to veterans. Look at find the thing that America's going to care about, because to be honest, nobody was really looking at the Native Americans in that protest when it came to fighting up against that company that was building the pipeline. No one cared, except for the people that actually cared and showed up. Once veterans showed up, then they're like, oh, okay, we can't do what we were doing to them before, now that these guys are here, kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
And that was the purpose of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing that
up
for next time is
like,
game on.
Yeah. One of the things, though, about 2016 was social media had not evolved totally into a disinformation machine. So there was still a lot of good information. There was a lot of stuff you could believe, and so I think that brought people together a lot. And since then, I think a lot of other issues, like, for instance, the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, 21.
I was there right after that too.
Okay. There was just so much misinformation being spread and fear mongering about Antifa. When my father, my uncles, they were Antifa. They went to Europe. They fought against fascists.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So I always thought it was kind of ridiculous that if you're fighting against fascism, you're considered an enemy of America.
Right.
Wait a minute.
I think it's all about. I agree with that. I think it's all about perspective and how people are turning whatever it is they're believing in or getting behind into whatever argument that they want it to fit, not their narrative, but like with the BLM protests and stuff like that, there was stuff that Antifa was doing that if anybody, I mean, you're completely right with the misinformation and the news agencies saying one thing and another thing's actually happening, but like I think they were doing that with every single group. It's just Antifa, man, if go just aside from the pipeline protests, with the BLM protests, like it was nuts. If you had a nice haircut and looked like you were a cop or ex-military and you don't look like a protester or a hippie or whatever, like people would attack you. I've been attacked. And it's not, and that's just me there with the news agency trying to get footage of what's going on, get people's perspectives and stuff like that. Like, no matter how misleading the news, like, I have no control on what Fox or CNN or MSNBC.
Right, yeah.
I have no control on what any of those people put out. There's stuff that happened at Standing Rock that they filmed and everything of us almost getting into a giant altercation at Standing Rock outside of the camp. And this was like that last couple weeks that I was telling you about, not the beginning, that they filmed all of it and cops got involved in everything. They didn't show a damn thing out of it. And I'm sitting here like, oh man, this is going to be some good footage. Like, that was nuts. And they're like, oh yeah, the producers said they don't want to show it. I'm just like, what? Why? Yeah. Show all of it. Show everything there. Show everything the cops are doing. Show everything the security's doing. Like, I hate the picking and choosing of what people show and what they don't show, whether it's like news agencies or whatever. I think except for certain groups, like there's some groups where it's like, dude, no matter how we look at your perspective, like that's racist or that's, insert whatever ad hominem. Yeah. But like, no matter what group, everybody has whatever way they're going to spin it. The anti-fascist people and like going to fight Nazis back then, like that was the most badass thing you could do. Like, these people are doing horrible things. We need to stop them. I think it's not that cut and dry anymore because
it's not that cut and dried, but I do understand why people they're so angry about the injustices in the world that and maybe also it's a lot of people who feel like they have nothing to lose because the opportunity in the world has been so compromised, and so people turn to violence a lot. But when you see what the police do to people, you're like, oh well, if they're going to use violence on me, maybe I need to use violence on them, which I personally am not a fan of. But I am, I think that creeping fascism is something that we always have to watch out for and guard against.
Do you think you have kept the same perspective you've had from, let's say, like, what's that big protest they had in New York for the Wall Street people?
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
yes. The 1%.
1%.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. We're
Yeah.
thinking the same thing then.
Yeah.
Do you think conventional liberal values from that time frame and a little bit before that time frame are the same? Like, do you think liberals then are the same as liberals now? And do you think conservatives then, around that time, are the same as conservatives now? On all sides.
I don't know. I'm not a big label person, conservative,
Right.
liberal, but I think that movement, what was it called? That movement, the 1%, the 99%, the Wall Street.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Okay. That movement had a lot of validity behind it, and there's so many issues in the U.S. that never get addressed.
Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street.
I know that was gonna kill me.
Yes, Occupy. Yeah. So, I felt like, this is a great movement. It's a great opportunity to point out to all Americans that things are maybe not moving in the right direction. And if you think, okay, Occupy was what, 2011?
2008, I think, right around there, because it was
it?
right after the 08
Oh, was it?
fall, right?
Okay, I'm not 100% sure. I can't.
We don't have Google in our heads. So.
Right. Anyways, back in that day, the things that Occupy was warning about just came true Tuesday.
What?
Billionaires buying a government.
Oh, you mean with the drawing a huge blank on the word, with the election?
With the election, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't want to I love talking and debating with people about politics and stuff like that. It sucks, man, because I'm like all about it too. The main question I'm asking is do you think, around that time it was, man, look at these pharmaceutical companies, they're controlling everything, they're pouring money, all that stuff, conventional liberals would say back then, what you would see as labeling those people as conventional liberalism, where it's we can't let big pharma control our government. We can't let these companies just pour a bunch of money into stuff and do whatever they want. We can't let a faction, whether it's Democrat, liberal, whatever, or conservative, we can't let them control all of government and make it to where there's no democracy or whatever. When I'm looking at that group then, and I'm hearing the same stuff they were saying then, I'm hearing that from the right now. That's why I've always felt that the right, conservatives, whatever, are just the left going the speed limit. The left is just going that way. And this is just my perspective. I'm not doing it as a mean anything. I'm just saying, in my perspective, I'm looking at what people were saying on the left back then about pharmaceutical companies, about vaccines, about the right to free speech, the right to bear arms. I don't like guns, but my guns protect my right to free speech. That kind of guy back then.
Yeah.
Screw the man. The man's not going to tell me what I can say. I feel like it's all just the right is just the left going the speed limit. And now what was liberals back then are now conservatives now, and the Democrats now are Ukraine, Russia, we need to give them money, we need to give Gaza and maybe not Gaza, you don't see that on the left anymore, Israel and Palestine, we should give Israel money. You don't hear that on the left anymore.
No.
But it's like I'm seeing more of that on those big news agencies now, and they're putting that label of Democrat, liberal, whatever, as okay with the wars in Ukraine and Russia. We need to give them weapons. We need to give them money. This, that, and the other. So that's why I'm asking, like, in your eyes, since you were around that time, like as an adult, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think it has made that shift at all?
Not really in my life, and not with the people I know.
Right. Just
there's differing opinions on all sorts of issues, but I've seen it get more and more and more polarized, and there's more and more division that people can't seem to talk about anymore. And one of the huge things that's happened with media and social media is that I've listened to, it's not my idea, but some other people have labeled it as we are now in cocoons. We now have our own news feed.
Yes.
Like if I opened up my Facebook and you opened up your Facebook, we would have a completely different news feed. My wife opens up her Facebook. She has a completely different news feed. And so the cocooning of America and the fear-based algorithms that, people, they've done these analysis of what are the algorithms feeding you? Well, they're feeding you fear. They're feeding you stuff that gets you worked up and gets you engaged. And the longer you stay on your device, the better. And if it's all about hating other people or being afraid of other people or demonizing other people, that's what people see in their feed. And, I see friends from high school on Facebook who, they've bought into a lot of stuff that isn't really based on truth or isn't based on what is reality here in America. And it's so hard to know what the truth is now because everybody's cocoon has a different truth. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
so.
I completely agree with that. I think the word truth has a million different meanings now. Like your truth is different than my truth, and your science is different than my science because my science says that I'm right, and your science, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And do you think that the algorithm thing with your phones, with internet, social media, all these different platforms, do you think it's a malicious thing, or do you think it's an algorithm thing where it's just you're spending a microsecond longer on that, so you're telling the algorithm you like that more than the other things you stared at? Because there's not just the cameras in the top of your phone that take pictures. There's cameras in your screen now that are measuring you smiling, frowning, crying, like all of it.
Yeah.
So do you think it's evil cabal of like,
no,
not to sound like Alex Jones, it's an evil cabal trying to control us? Or do you think it's just the algorithm not picking sides, but going off of what you're paying more attention to?
It's absolutely going off what you're paying more attention to. And do you know Yuval Harari?
I've heard that name.
Yeah. So he's a historian, and he's written books, and he's taken a deep look at what social media has done to people. And I think he makes a lot of sense. There's no reason to restrict free speech among human beings. But when Mark Zuckerberg and whoever owned Twitter at the time and other things, when they want to increase their business, they design an algorithm to increase user interaction. And the algorithm is sort of a primitive AI, and it notices, it builds that, hey, people like all this fear-based stuff. People like conspiracy theories. People, so the algorithm promotes that. So if some person gets on and says, hey, I don't believe we ever landed on the moon, fine. If you want to believe that, great.
Do you
But
think
then
we landed on the moon?
the algorithm then says, oh yeah, people like this kind of content, and they push it out, and all of a sudden this, people, we didn't land on the moon is big. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I was there. I watched it on TV. It happened, man. And so
I agree. I think we went to the moon. I think there's a lot of inconsistencies and non-truths that I don't think that makes sense. Non-truths, but lies that the government's told us, not just with the moon landing. I think we landed on the moon. That being said, like what you were saying, I saw them land on the moon. I don't think what you saw was them actually landing on the moon. I think that was the government filming it prior, because one, they hadn't figured out how to get a live feed from the moon to the world at that time, and they knew that. Not only that, they would have to take the film that they filmed on the moon and get it through the radiation belt, and they hadn't figured out how to protect the film to get through that radiation belt going from Earth to moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong. Like, I could be talking out of my ass, just in case. Look it up, do whatever, watch. Conspiracies are conspiracies till we all find out they're, true or not true. And I think we're all being lied to about a lot of things. Like, the government's going to tell us one thing and the truth is a completely different thing. And that's why America is in its own bubble. We think everything revolves around us. Like, I think it's a giant mixture of, we just want to know the truth, and we all know the government's lying to us to some capacity. We just don't know where it stops. We don't know where it begins, and we don't know where it stops. So when you hear those conspiracies, you're like, I believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
like that, I think that's what catches a lot of people, especially with mainstream media, especially with the algorithms. Because for me, the big thing that like catches my ears when I'm listening to somebody say some outrageous, Alex Jones as an example, say some outrageous, crazy stuff that like just hearing it, you're like, dude, you sound like a nutball. Like, what are you talking about? And he says something, and then you see the news agencies and mainstream media and all these groups completely come after him, and you're like, okay, well, what did he say that wasn't true? And aside from, what was that school? Not Uvalde.
No, they one in Connecticut.
Yeah. Parkland? No, not Parkland.
No.
There's so many school shootings to
So many, yeah.
work off of. But aside from that, for example, the atrazine in the water. He makes a statement that sounds crazy and wild. They're turning the frogs gay. And it's like, you're an idiot. We're not turning the frogs gay. But then you see that there was a documentary about it by a scientist who was gay or queer, I think he identified as. And he was an actual scientist, biologist, whatever, that did a whole study on how the water treatment plants are unable to filter out chemicals like atrazine. And it's coming from all the medicine that people are taking, the birth control women are taking, that they pee in the water, it goes through the water treatment plant, and our filters just aren't picking it out. So the clean water runoff outside of these water treatment plants are going into creeks. And the best example of a life cycle you can find that we use as humans to compare, like, how does this affect frogs? How does this affect fish? Whatever, because their life cycles are so quick. They studied the frogs, and they noticed that the atrazine in the water, or something in the water they found out it was atrazine, is affecting the frogs and turning the frogs into female frogs. And the male frogs, as they're going through their gestation and going from tadpoles to frogs, they are mating with male frogs. And like it just, so what he's saying is crazy, but it's true. He's just saying it in a crazy way, and then all these people are attacking him. So I'm seeing this going, okay, well, what he's saying is true. So is he crazy, or are you guys just coming after him? So it's like mainstream media and these groups give guys like Alex Jones the power because they try and shut him down. He can say 95 crazy things that are completely true, but the 5 crazy things he says are a complete lie or completely whatever. And it's like, I don't know, me sitting out my perspective outside the box, I'm like, I don't know what to trust.
Right.
So
yeah. And that's everybody is in that boat now.
but
What
then
is the truth?
we're all picking sides. That's what scares me, is the tribalism of like these different groups. Because like we were saying, my truth's different than your truth, or my group is, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's just a human thing. We like tribalism. That's like our go-to thing as humans. So like, I don't think that's going to change unless we actually stand up and push back on it. And I think things like the pipeline protest are one of those things that everyone can kind of get behind, of like, we need clean water. If you don't think we need clean water, you're an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is the one thing we can definitely all get behind and fight back on.
Yes.
Yeah. And the Native Americans and how much they've given to America as a whole, military service wise, years in service, like, especially looking back generationally on what's happened to their people and stuff like that. It's amazing that any of them would even bother joining the military, being a part of anything having to do with America, military, stuff like that. Like, so there needs to be more respect in that aspect of, okay, these guys, like, they're saying that this is not okay and they're protesting it. So they have a little heart behind what they're saying, and they have meaning behind what they're saying. So maybe we should listen to what they're saying, what they're talking about, and either fix it or come to a conclusion, like in a real scientific thought process discussion, instead of, well, I mean, the pipeline company said that they're good. You know what I mean? There's nothing sacred there. They dug in all these other places. Like, there's nothing sacred there. So, like, it sucks. It sucks altogether, because you never know who's lying to you. You never know who's telling the truth. And you don't know who's, like, genuine or genuinely trying to help when it comes to things like protecting water and, you know, the activism that goes into stuff like that.
Well, I think it is, you know, you can look at it as saying, okay, the people who are trying to protect the water, they're also trying to protect their land, their sovereignty, their way of life. So they have a lot of agendas along with trying to protect the water. But what is the agenda of the people who are trying to push a pipeline through where the people don't want it?
Right.
Push a pipeline through where the environment is very sensitive, and any kind of spill is going to be disastrous for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people downstream.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hunting, drinking, anything.
Yeah. So there's always, gray areas between people's agendas, but some clearly are more, if you are a believer in keeping the water clean, if you're a believer in keeping our land unsullied, then the direction you need to go and the work you need to do is pretty clear, I think.
Is there anything you can think of before before we kind of tie it off, is there any groups or foundations you can think of you'd like to shout out?
Well, I know you put that out there earlier. I just would like to promote the idea that people, there's this, famous thing out there now, do your own research. Well, yes, do your own research, but try and do your research outside of your cocoon.
Yes.
And
watch all the mainstream media so that you can.
Or and not just
kidding.
not just the mainstream media. Go to the source of these stories, and so you can get a wider perspective. That's one thing I've always felt, and I was a high school teacher, and I really try and keep an open mind about all of the issues and try and hear everybody's side of the story. And I want people to realize that, hey, there is a lot of information out there, and you can actually find it if you are willing to go beyond your own comfort zone.
I think a lot of people, it's not that they're lazy, it's that, like, I have so much time on my hands now, especially when I'm watching my kids. I think a lot of people, it's like, dude, I have a 40-hour, 60-hour work week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to look up this BS or whatever. In
Yeah.
their mind, that's what, you know what I mean? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to do this, so I'll listen to this guy, and if he's saying whatever, I'll agree with that because it sounds like my opinion in a way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that, but I also agree with what you're saying. I think a lot of people are moving away from that and finding different sources, different news outlets. There's so many to pick and choose from, especially on YouTube, podcast channels, stuff like that. There's Tim Pool. He's a great resource. He has a lot of people on his podcast from all different spectrums of perspectives and stuff like that. He used to work for Vice News. Like, he has been anywhere and everywhere and has a really good grasp on politics and the process. Him, Patrick Bet David, he's a veteran himself. Like, there's a bunch of different things to pull from, not just inside your cocoon, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It just, people need to get out of that and need to understand that mainstream media isn't going to tell you the truth.
No, they've all got their
100%.
own agenda.
Exactly. No matter what it is,
Yeah.
they're all going to say what is going to benefit their shareholders and what's going to benefit the people running it. So, and they're all scared to keep their job.
Sure.
Like, well, if I go against whatever, they're going to fire me. Then I won't get
Mm-hmm.
my pension. Then you know what I mean? So
Right. Yeah.
we got to move away from that more. And like you were saying, step out of your comfort zone, talk to more people, talk to more vets, go to the VA, talk to more people. There's so many different perspectives at the VA and
Yeah.
so many different people to talk to.
But one thing about that I am proud of as a veteran is that if, it is a tribe, it is a connection. We've been through a lot of the same stuff. And despite any political differences or even socioeconomic differences, we have that connection, and people in general are very respectful to one another and are willing to listen to each other and help each other. And that's, that's how we got along as humans for hundreds of thousands of years before we started our civilized
aside from
way
race,
of life.
religion, and all these other things
Uh-huh.
we'd go to war for,
Mhm.
right before that, like I agree. And it helps that it's a small community.
Mm.
Like I've said this a million times, we're veterans in the U.S. are less than 7% of Americans are veterans,
Mm-hmm.
and less than 2% of Americans, probably less than 1%, volunteer for our armed forces. So it's a very small community, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, people have that connection of we've all suffered in some way going into the military, being in the military, and that's my favorite mentality is I don't care what creed you come from, like what anything you are all equally worthless until you prove yourself otherwise as a soldier. Not, I'm saying worthless as in what's that movie with you are all equally worthless. You know what I'm talking? Full Metal Jacket.
Yes. Yeah.
But, like, that's my favorite scene because it's like, yeah, no, that's the military in a nutshell. Like, you all suck until you don't suck.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Yeah.
and we can all kind of connect on that of, I don't care what your race is. I don't care what your sexual preference is. I don't care ideology, religion, whatever. Do you have my back? You got my back? I got yours.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe, and I think that resonates a lot with vets, and I think we need to keep it going, and we need to come together, find foundations in your local area. There's so many to pick from.
Right. I guess, I sort of did it earlier, but I would like to shout out Homeward Alliance in Fort Collins because they really do amazing work. And for instance, if you're a homeless veteran and you need counseling, you need help filling out paperwork, you need help getting your benefits that you're due, they have people there that can help you do that. And and if you need gear to stay warm in this kind of weather, they have that. If they have even a medical clinic now. And so, yeah, Homeward Alliance is an amazing organization.
Nice. I'm glad to hear about them. And on top of that, with work, if you're looking for work, the DVOP VA center, or not VA center, it's an organization up in Fort Collins. They have disabled veteran outreach programs, stuff like that, and they have that up at Fort Collins on the 5th floor in one of the public buildings.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know
in
what
the
I'm talking?
Larimer County Courthouse.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they so many options out there. You can find work.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no excuse for there to be homeless veterans at all. Like, I don't care if something happens in everybody's life. Life's hard. Do something to better yourself and get yourself out of that hole. There should be no homeless veterans. We should be doing more as a country to keep that from ever happening, whether it's drug abuse, alcohol, mental health, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There are programs out there, and there are people out there to help veterans. So if you need help, if you need work, if you need a place to stay or anything like that, there's programs out there for you as a veteran. Go get them. Go
Right.
to those centers.
Yeah,
Go to the VA.
You just reminded me another organization
Nice.
in Fort Collins that I think there's more. It's not just in Fort Collins. The wounded veterans or wounded warriors. I was helped by Wounded Warriors. It's a free service, and you can go get like acupuncture and other kinds of treatments like that can really help with anxiety, PTSD, that kind of thing, and it's free for all veterans.
I just did that the other day. That's why I got the little bands. I had dry needling, and she hooked up little nodes to them and shocked it, and like my hands are like moving.
At Wounded Warriors?
No, at the VA.
Oh, at the VA.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, that is another thing that unfortunately a lot of people don't take advantage of.
Yeah.
The
Benefits.
services and the benefits that are out there. And yeah, I think we're really fortunate here in northern Colorado that we have this brand new VA clinic in Loveland, and it's an amazing place. I've done physical therapy there for some injuries I've had, and it's just an incredible resource that can really help people. Yeah.
And they have people there that will point you in the right direction when it comes to things like disability ratings as a veteran, going through that process. If you ever need help doing that, hit me up in the comments. You'd be an idiot not to go find out what benefits are out there for you, because if you go to get a rating and you're over a certain percentage, you can get disabled veteran plates that make it to where you don't have to pay tax, title, registration fees on one of your vehicles. It's nuts, the stuff that's out there. You get basically it's a retirement pension with whatever rating you end up getting. It's a process. It's a pain in the butt. So it's good to find people that know that process and can help you through it. But it's something that helps get that financial burden off your shoulders with whatever you might be going through, mental health wise, PTSD, stuff like that. And some of the people that I'm working with are all types of in that sphere of PTSD, mental health, suicide prevention. Combat Recovery Foundation, they're a great foundation that helps veterans with suicide, get them out of the house, talking to other vets, going to camp, build trails, cut trees down, help out. Like, it's so many benefits out there. So it's not that it's not out there. It's that you're not opening your eyes and looking. Go to the VA. Go talk to somebody. Watch this video. Like, subscribe. No, I'm kidding. But like, hit me up in the comments. I can help with whatever. There's so much stuff out there for you. Is there other than I imagine we'll think of some more places to shout out foundation wise for vets, but is there any ending comments or shout outs or anything like that before we go?
No, I thank you for having me on here and talking about a wide range of, of subjects beyond Standing Rock. But yeah, Standing Rock was an amazing experience for me and for a lot of veterans, and I think it really brought a lot of attention to injustice and the plight of Native Americans trying to work in a world where corporations think they can do anything they want. Yeah.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for coming out. Glad to have you.
Oh, thank you.